Hey guys, I'm Kelly T and I have a pretty damn good band that you need to look into and a very good album that I really hope you do listen to after this review. The band is Polemicist. They hail from Philadelphia in the USA. They're a 5-piece band that has truly awed me with their concept album titled Zarathustrian Impressions, which of course, as you probably can guess by the title of this album, it is very closely linked to German philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche. And if you're familiar with Nietzsche's works, you might get a bit of an idea into the psyche of this 2019 release. It's said that this particular works by Nietzsche, Thus Spoke Zarathustra, is one of his most misunderstood, accessible and influential works. And I'll explain this loosely. It is about the willingness to risk all for the sake of enchantment of humanity and overcoming the feelings of meaninglessness. Oh my God, I struggle with pronunciation at times. So expect the lyrical themes to tie in very tightly and bind to these theories. And it's been done in a very intelligent manner by this band, let me tell you. They've done it really, really well. Okay, so now I've got most of those tongue twisters out of the way. Let's talk about the music, that might help. This is blackened death metal with touches of some very eerie and haunting synth, emotive melodies throughout this album, yet it really does have that heavy, aggressive sting that USBM is being recognized for globally, which strongly has those death metal influences going on. But I have to say this album for me was probably more weighted toward the black metal, which of course is fine. The production is pure, there is minimal distortion, and given what this album is themed around, that said, clarity for me was fine. I know a lot of us love our distortion in our black metal, but to me, this was necessity to keeping within this album's context. The album pretty much knocked me on my ass, like it really did. When I started out with this enticing and creepy intro that kicks this album off, and then straight into the first track, which is Concerning the Rabble, I was just wowed. The tempo, the musical execution was all very addictive for me. And those big bloody guttural vocals and the big croaking mid-range vocal fold that he also uses is just so damn good. And the entire track threw a nostalgia toward early Satyricon for me, and of course I was absolutely drawn to that. And this was definitely what I thought was going to be my pick off the album until I listened further. So as I moved through this album, I was feeling more and more sucked in, and here I am thinking this album is peaking its best tracks first. Two of my favorite tracks happen to be toward the back end of this album, so you really are in for something pretty grand. It just grows, it takes you through a journey. There's nothing small, there's nothing half done about this banger of an album. The Convalescent. This was an imposing and large listen. This is my pick of the album. The trem picking, the divine and unique sounds of that trem picking just blew my head off. Crashing riffs, they just bent me in all directions, and the drum track, it just smashed it out of the park. I'm a big fan of percussion, and you know, this was so prevalent. The vocals were hurled with such a big demand, which is so essential in black and death metal, and I felt the bass really strong within this track too, and I did love to hear that blackened death bass, because some of these tracks I didn't hear it as prevalent, and I think this is probably why this was one of the biggest tracks for me, because the bass was very, very strong and very, very there, and I loved it so much. What I really, really loved about this track also, how much am I raving on about this one? The layered guitar tones, which you hear throughout other tracks as well, but it was just so obvious in this one. It just worked so well. It felt like the guitar patterns were just, you know, packed on top of each other, and it just gave it such a smothering ambience and a big mood. You know, you had parts that were really low tone distorted. On top of that, you had a finely, you know, picked sound, and then you could hear just this brutal, hard, low toned, just gruff strumming, and it was just so good. I really want to say more about this track, but I feel like I'm over talking it. I just want to say one last thing, particularly about the guitars. The ending, holy shit, the guitar solo that goes on, it's so ominous, it's so unearthly. It almost felt like it took me out of space for a moment, and it was just exceptional. My second pick off the album was On Redemption. I absolutely loved this track. It was so imposing. Just a huge atmosphere to it. The way the vocals are just thrown at you, like it's just smashes you in the face so hard, and you just, especially with your headphones on, you've got no sound coming in. It really is the way to listen to this album. Just have it completely surround you. In fact, a big shout out to every track in this album. You know, the guitar patterns, the soundscapes in general, the absolutely punishing vocal delivery. The experience of it was very dramatic, very theatrical in places, and offered such a great mix of tempo throughout too, so it kept the entire listen very interesting, very textured, to the point of engulfment with some of the crescendoing moments that goes on within some of these tracks. You know, I usually associate the mystique within black and death metal with the distortion and that beautiful foggy ambience that we love to hear. However, even with such a high quality production, Polemicist have managed to well and truly keep their music shrouded in a big, dark, fuck-off cloud, and they've maintained the enigmatic atmosphere well and truly, and they've done it very, very well. Zarathustrian Impressions, this can be listened to on Bandcamp. It's also there for purchase. Polemicist can be followed on Instagram, also on Facebook, so please support them, give them a like, and keep up to date with what they're doing, gig guides, releases, etc. It's a great way to support the bands. And to the band, you exceptional lads and awesome axe lady, thank you so much for absolutely brutalizing me with this stunning black and death metal album. It's been an absolute journey the last few days. I'm Kelly T, this has been my Albums of the Week.